Alright, guys. Back for another book bitch review of Ender's Game. Finally finished reading it yesterday on Christmas, so figured I could talk about it a little bit. It was kind of actually a little disappointing to get through about halfway and reach one of several quite anti-Semitic, like page and a half long rants by characters, or descriptions of characters that just ended up really anti-Semitic. Like right off the bat, that really made me really freaking sad because I remembered this book being such a good book and so diverse because it was pretty fucking diverse. They don't really talk about, a lot of the color of different characters, and there's not that many women in the entirety of the book, but as far as, names and shit and general descriptions, it's pretty diverse. It's not just a bunch of fucking white guys. But, the anti-Semitism actually really got to me. And it's really sad, because this really has been one of my favorite books since I was in middle school. So, realizing what an anti-Semitic piece of shit it really kind of is was kind of painful. Although, honestly, I think this book gets a lot more hate than it needs to, purely because Orson Scott Card is kind of a dick. And, by kind of, I mean seriously a dick. And, yeah, it is a good story. Ender has a lot of the qualities of female protagonists in female-written young adult stuff. The female protagonists that always get called Mary Sue's. Hey, Ender, guess what? Okay, if you really want to start bullshitting about characters being Mary Sue's, fucking start with Ender and his fucking siblings. I suppose out of the three of them, Valentine would be the least Mary Sue-ish, which is kind of odd, considering she's actually the girl, but yeah, I refuse to call him Gary Sue's either. No. Peter and Ender are totally Mary Sue's. Just not in the traditional sense of the word. They're Mary Sue's in the new sense of the word, where, they're too powerful. Oh no. But seriously, a lot of Ender's characterization reads like that, first couple of short stories that kids write at age 8, 9, 10, when, they make everyone so awesome and they're so smart and they know everything and the kids are awesome and everything's awesome and But even his reaction, his reactions are really awkward. I understand that, if they were in some kind of a battle school situation where, kids were taken away at age 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, and taken away from their parents and not given leave until age 16 or whatever, yeah, I could see where that would kind of mess the kid up, but I would think it would almost make the kid a little more emotional, especially at the end. I don't want to give too much away because I know there are still people out there that do want to read this book, but I don't know. Rereading it now, the end kind of seems anticlimactic. And, having reread it, I do kind of see where people were coming from when other Ender's Game fans were bitching about the movie. But you have to remember, guys, when things are made into movies, they can't adequately show 2, 5, 10 years of progression when, the story is actually taking place over that progression. They would need to actually make it a trilogy or a TV series or something. For, the limited scale that a movie really provided, they did a damn good job. And honestly, if the biggest goddamn difference between the movie and the book were, or the biggest goddamn differences, because the only two that I can actually think of, I haven't seen the movie recently. I saw it in theaters when it came out, but the only two differences I can think of are both pretty much at the end, and the one is rather than flying off to colonize the planet or whatever with Valentine towards the end. Spoiler alert! But yeah, spoiler alert. Towards the end, they fly off the planet or colonize the planet, and that's when the big reveal at the ass end of the book happens. In the movie, it happens, I think, right on Eros. I'm not even sure if they actually used Eros or not, but it happens on the planet where the final command school shit all happens. So, at least that's what I remember. I don't know. It's been a while. I should really probably rewatch the movie. But if those are the two biggest differences, I actually kind of have to applaud the people that made this into a movie. Because seriously, I've seen so much worse done to movie book adaptations. So much worse. Like, I understand that there are people out there that want the book to be as close as possible to what, or the movie to be as close as possible to what the book said, but a lot of times it's too damn difficult to pack an entire 300 plus page book into less than 3 hours. You have to remember that people don't generally have the patience for, movies being 3 plus hours long. That's why director's cuts were created, Well, that and, if worst case scenario, you can Peter Jackson it, but not every fucking series or even just standalone book really should have that kind of attention paid to it. Like, it works for certain kinds of stories to have it broken up into multiple movies, but I think my opinion sticks with Ender's Game the movie. It was a very close book adaptation. And, the biggest differences were, where the final and, ass end reveal happens, and where his commanders or, his toon leaders or whatever the flying fuck you want to call them are during the final battles. Like, seriously? People are gonna bitch about that kind of shit? Good God! It made it for a better movie to actually have all the fucking characters on screen for that bit, It made a hell of a lot more sense for the people to actually be in the same goddamn room. Like, when I first fucking read this book, I honestly thought that Petra and Dink and Bean and the others were all, with those pilots in those battles. That actually kind of fucking scared me. I'm really glad that they changed it to make it a little more clear as to what the fuck, where the fuck, and why the fuck. Also, seriously, beyond that, I think the movie was great. The movie was probably actually better than the book in some aspects, because the book really kind of dwells on Ender's man pain a lot, and Ender's complete inability to do things, emotional things. And it's just, I understand that that's kind of, the point of the whole battle school thing, and that's probably a byproduct of them isolating this kid, but, suspension of disbelief. Because, honestly, those kind of shit could never happen. We wouldn't ever draft 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds into, army type shit in some random solar system, battle school thing. That, I don't think that would ever honestly happen, because human beings have slightly more of a conscience than that, as a whole. I don't honestly think that people would let their children do that, so, if that's some kind of a suspension of disbelief thing that is making people not like this book, then yeah. But honestly, I think most of it is probably just people being absolutely pissed off at Orson Scott Card for being a homophobic, sexist piece of shit, But, you know, how many authors out there, how many white male authors out there aren't, honestly?
You're not going to heaven.
But yeah, I don't know really where I'm going with this book review, but I finished it on Christmas, and this is probably like my 60th read through of this book, but I hadn't read it since I was a teenager, so yeah. Is it still one of my favorite books? Tentatively. It's not really in my top 5 anymore, mostly because there's a lot of issues with it, but it is still definitely worth a read, and I honestly hope that future generations will continue to read Ender's Game and, you know, understand what, you know, is good about the book and what's bad about the book and why people are so pissed at some of it. And, you know, like, overall, I don't think it's a harmful book, as a lot of the books I've actually read with intent to review on this channel have actually, I've considered them to be quite dangerous, honestly. But like this one, it's got dull science fiction, like really dull science fiction. It's got really fucking long bits of exposition by the adults at the beginning of every fucking chapter, and it gets steadily longer until I think the last chapter is literally half the fucking adults talking to each other. I don't really understand the point of having that at the beginning of each chapter. Like, I think it would honestly make the book slightly better if that wasn't at the beginning of each chapter. But thankfully, there's only 15 chapters in this behemoth. So, they're all really, really, really long, but they're all, you know, by comparison, I guess, you don't end up with quite so much of the fucking adults yammering on and on and on. But still, I think it's worth a read. I think that the vast majority of people that read or watch my channel and read my blog would probably enjoy this book. I would take it with a grain of salt, definitely, because there are some definite issues with the text, particularly like the 2 or 3 really long anti-Semitic bits. Like, I don't really, that made me uncomfortable. But for the most part, when he's not attacking religions and people, and, you know, just generally, like, anybody that's not a rich white author, it's actually a fairly good book if you can get past those. But yeah, so that's the Book Bitches review of Ender's Game. I'm currently working on reading the Maradonia saga. Well, not the entire thing. I'm not going to waste that much money. No, fuck that. That's probably one of the only series I'm not going to finish, mostly because the first book actually fucking cost me like $5. And I'm not going to fucking pay more for books that are quite that typo written. But yeah, that'll be a fun review. And that'll be coming out fairly soon. But yeah, for now, I'm the Book Bitch.